Check, check, check. Hello everyone. Welcome back to S.A.S videos by Stock Market Astrology Stats. Today, we will share some fun and insightful stats on the stock market experience of people on curated data, based on their Mars position in all houses in natal chart. First of all, we want to inform you that all contents shared are only for entertainment of general public. Contents are not to be considered as any sort of recommendation or advice. This video is not intended to promote any actions in capital market. Also, all data that is used in this video are publicly shared data with S.A.S team. They are subjected to lot of noise and errors. No private data of any person is fetched or will be shared through channel. So let's begin with the stats for Mars. This chart shows the cumulative returns of all houses for quick check and comparison. We were able to collect about 12-15 plus records and returns until first week of September 2022. Not everyone are completely sure about their planet positions or the current investment performance. Some people just shared their approximate date of birth and we had to calculate it using software. Regarding stock market performance, mostly it's a ballpark figure from their memory. We have also averaged out numerical values to round figures for simplicity. So, what's the overall stats for Mars in all houses? The three best performing houses are the third house with 18.5% return, 11th house with 17.5% return, and the 9th house with 16.5% return. The difference between houses are narrow. It also shows us the insight that performance of masses are not very far off from the performance of benchmark indices. The last three houses are the first house with 7.5% return, fourth with 8.5% and the second house with 9.5% return. Why did people with these three positions had such underperformance on bulk data? Honestly, we don't know. Now, this may not mean that people with Mars in these three positions will not get good returns in stock market. There is huge volatility and position of remaining planets may also make big difference in returns. In certain cases, due to some big overperformance, or few large underperformance of few records, the overall performance of the house gets averaged down or averaged up. The stats for Mars was full of surprises. Nobody expected first to come as worst performer. Similarly, 12th house emerged as fourth best performer. Among the first six houses, only third and fifth house outperformed the benchmark. Volatility is very high in first six houses. In the last six houses, four of them outperformed the benchmark. Volatility is comparatively lower in last six houses. The insight we seem to gain is that, when it comes to stock market, Mars seems to be more consistent in last six houses. Third house did emerge as the best performer, but in lot of charts we saw either Mars and Saturn conjunct, or Mars and Saturn aspecting each other. This was mostly seen in third, 9th and 12th house. There was lot of hype and speculation about 7th and 8th house. But stats shows, on bulk level, they are quite normal in performance. Nothing extraordinary. This is one beauty of collecting data and running some simple stats. Now let's move on to see some stats related to each individual house. Mars in the first house. We recorded 110 plus entries for this position. On average, people with this position clocked about 7.5% return. This is the worst performing house in records. The average age at which they joined stock market is 28.5. When it comes to satisfaction, we got a 45% value. Which is no surprise, considering worst returns on average. Mars in the second house. We recorded 100 plus entries for this position. On average, people with this position clocked about 9.5% return. This is the third worst performing house. The average age at which they joined stock market is 28. When it comes to satisfaction, we got a 50% value. Only half of the people are satisfied in stock market with this position. Mars in the 3rd house. We recorded 100 plus entries for this position. On average, people with this position clocked about 18.5% return. This is the best performing house in records. The average age at which they joined stock market is 23.5. So, people with this position are very quick to join markets. At 90%, satisfaction level is very good. Mars in the 4th house. We recorded 110 plus entries for this position. On average, people with this position clocked about 8.5% return. This is the second worst performing house in records. The average age at which they joined stock market is 27. When it comes to satisfaction, we got a 45% value, correlating with low returns on average. Mars in the 5th house. We recorded 105 plus entries for this position. On average, people with this position clocked about 14.5% return. That is a good figure from overall basis. The average age at which they joined stock market is 24. At 75%, majority are satisfied with few heartbreaks. Mars in the 6th house. We recorded 100 plus entries for this position. On average, people with this position clocked about 11.5% return. This is slightly below normal return. The average age at which they joined stock market is 26. Satisfaction level stands at 55%. Mars in the 7th house. We recorded 105 plus entries for this position. On average, people with this position clocked about 12.5% return. This is a normal return. The average age at which they joined stock market is 28. Satisfaction level stands at 65%. Mars in the 8th house. We recorded 105 plus entries for this position. On average, people with this position clocked about 10.5% return. This is a slightly below normal return. The average age at which they joined stock market is 24.5. So, they are also quick to join stock markets. Satisfaction level stands at 50%. Mars in the 9th house. We recorded 100 plus entries for this position. On average, people with this position clocked about 16.5% return. This is the 3rd best performing house in records. The average age at which they joined stock market is 22.5. So, they are quite swift to join markets. At 85%, most are satisfied, with few exceptions. Mars in the 10th house. We recorded 105 plus entries for this position. On average, people with this position clocked about 13.5% return. The average returns is reasonably good. There was lot of hype and expectation around this house. But, stats are not showing anything extraordinary. The average age at which they joined stock market is 26. Satisfaction level stands at low 55%, even though returns are not that bad. Mars in the 11th house. We recorded 105 plus entries for this position. On average, people with this position clocked about 17.5% return. This is the 2nd best performing house. The average age at which they joined stock market is 25. So, this house is also quick to join markets. Satisfaction level stands at 80%. Mars in the 12th house. We recorded 110 plus entries for this position. On average, people with this position clocked about 15.5% return. This is the 4th best performing house on records. It did surprise few here at S.A.S videos. Some were expecting a lower figure. The average age at which they joined stock market is 24. Satisfaction level stands at good 90%. So, that's all for today from Stock Market Astrology Stats. Wishing everyone peaceful and happier times ahead. Thank you and God bless.